Welcome, everyone, to another insightful episode of Reach Minds Thoughts for Your Life Journey podcast. Today, we'll be diving into a fascinating and incredibly relevant topic: positive intelligence, stress, and well-being. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to navigate life's inevitable stresses with such grace and resilience? That's often the power of positive intelligence at play. In this show, we're going to explore what exactly is positive intelligence, its practical application in our daily lives, and why it's so crucial for managing our own stresses and overall well-being. And I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today, Maria Loney, who has been making waves with her recent work on stress awareness techniques. Her content has resonated deeply with so many people with intangible strategies for navigating pressures of modern life. Get ready to glean some powerful insights that you can immediately apply to your life's journey. Let's get started. Welcome, Brie.
Thank you, Nita.
One of the things I also want to say is that the work that you're doing, Marie, is really having, from what I observe and experiencing, ripple effects in getting people to think healthier about themselves, and how making organizations more human-centered workplaces where people not only are surviving and also thriving within those. And I'm really looking forward to how you're going to part your wisdom in with people listening to this podcast of how they can integrate this in their everyday practices of having a healthy well-being. So tell me, what got you started with stress and well-being?
My journey began with a real powerful truth, a truth whereby I'm saying to myself, am I doing the best? Am I doing the best that I can do? Because there were lots of pressures on my with work and with family, etc. So when you can't perform at your best, you're not feeling your best, really. So I started my career in the fashion industry, and that was all about excitement and adventure, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. But it was also relentless pressure. So there was this pressure, constant cycle of overworking, of exhaustion, of burnout, and repeat. And that was commonplace. That was expected. And for me, that was really difficult place to sustain being happy, for having joy in what I was doing and really getting the best out of myself. And I suppose a lot of people who are listening can actually resonate with that. And that was like a pattern. And it didn't just affect me, as you were saying, there was a ripple effect, a negative ripple effect, because colleagues I was talking to, they were going through the same thing, friends, family, and all from different industries. It wasn't only in the fashion. And we were striving, but we were also struggling. And it was almost as though it was a hidden silence of we're struggling, but this is the way it is, and let's put up with it kind of thing. So the turning point for me was really around my health when I became repeatedly ill, and it got worse and worse until one day I was like completely burnt out and bedridden. I had a real bad case of influenza, and I just thought, my body's speaking to me. And if I don't listen, it's going to just get worse. So then I needed to stop. And it wasn't a sharp stop, it was a stop that took some time to wind up my business and heal and think of what the next stages might be.
Which is where I think positive intelligence came in. So tell me a little bit about your journey into positive intelligence and how it relates to health and well-being.
So being a well-being coach, executive coach, it was It's always about learning and growing. So we're always looking at ways to support ourselves and our clients to help them through feeling quite low of energy as well. And for myself, I wanted to find more strategies. So I'm breath work is one thing that I do a lot of work in NLP as well. And I'm fascinated by the brain and how we let the brain control us and we don't necessarily control the brain, and also the kind of things that we say about ourselves. So I'm very fascinated about that. So I came across positive intelligence that was developed by Shazad Shemaine, and that's a science-based methodology that kind of builds mental fitness. So that helps you individuals to quieten that internal negative voice and those are those automatic thought patterns that we might have. So those saying negative things about a situation, like I can't do, oh, that's so difficult, getting stressed and wound up about it, that's triggering stress, anxiety, self-doubt, and eventually that will culminate into burnout. So,
Interesting.
yeah. In positive intelligence, you'd call that internal negative voice a saboteur. And one of our biggest saboteurs is the judge.
Oh,
So that's the voice that says to you that you're not good enough, where you dwell on mistakes or you magnify every little thing that goes wrong for yourself and for others. And that sort of bigger picture judge doesn't act on his own. He's got, or their own, should I say. They got a few mates like the controller. That's one big thing for me, like to control things. I'm better because I do my positive intelligence, or the avoider. And sometimes there may be things that I'd say on my to-do list. I might just put that until later and do it a bit later. And then sometimes I say to myself, okay, you put it down the line for long enough. It's time to put it as number one on your list and get on with it.
so there's these three elements, which is the judge, the controller, and the avoider, all strategies that we might deploy. However, the end result is they cause us more stress rather than alleviate stress for us.
So what we have, if we have a saboteur and we have a sage, and sage is that voice that's going to fight for you and say, hey, you can do it, get up and do it. Or that voice that says to me, it needs to go at number one on the list now because you can get on with this and move on and not feel the weight of that kind of pressure. And then those accomplice saboteurs, if you like, would be the controller and the avoider. They all come under one sort of umbrella. But
Mm.
yes, basically they're hijacking your mind so that it impacts on your performance or it impacts on your well-being or maybe even impacting on your relationships.
So when you're aware of your controller operating, how do you manage it so that you get out of its way?
So what I would do is I would start by doing some mental fitness exercises. And that's different for everybody. There are series under the positive intelligence banner that you can actually start to work on. So that may be shifting your mindset or your thoughts or what's going on in your head and taking time out. And usually we call those PQ reps. So that might be a minute or 2 minutes of you focusing on something else and turning your attention to something else. So your attention might be turned to, say, touch. So you may get something that's in front of you, a pencil or pen. I've got one with lots of ridges and things like that. And I might start to focus on my touch. So the process would be to close your eyes, to take a couple of deep breaths, then start to think about those sensations of touch. So I can feel some ridges here, I can feel some smooth bits here, I can feel some cold metal here. So you're literally giving your brain a break from those patterns and those thoughts that you were having in order to shift yourself away from a negative into a more positive state.
So I guess with saboteurs, it's not the fact that we get rid of them, we just learn to manage them
Yeah.
in our world because they're going to be with us anyway,
Yeah.
because
So,
they're a part of us.
yes. So that analogy of quietening the saboteur and actually lifting up and giving a stronger voice, a more powerful voice to the sage is literally going to help you manage that. And you're right, it's about managing.
Connecting that to the world we're in at the moment, and all the sort of uncertainty, the volatility that exist, and at the micro level, what are some of the underlining causes of chronic stress have you observed that's happening today?
The world that we live in, okay, it's disconnected. We spend more time on our computers than we do with people. We don't talk to people. Some of those innate human traits of communicating, talking, we're disconnected and disengaged, if you like. We can be disengaged from our purpose. We're disengaged from our physical bodies. What we're doing these days, we're pumping chemicals into our bodies. We're eating things to make it look a certain way. We are even disconnecting from joy, if you like. What truly brings you joy may not be buying that item. What truly gives you joy is maybe having a laugh with a friend, but all those kind of things is something that we are disconnected with from, and even our values added to the pressure of social media, that kind of you got to be on it all the time, you've got to be a fear of missing out, FOMO. It's all a recipe for burnout.
Building on that, in terms of the work that you've been doing, what are some of the positive feedback have you had in terms of your stress awareness technique that I spoke about at the beginning of the podcast?
Some of the feedback that I've had from clients has been quite positive. It's a journey and everybody's different. For some clients, it may work almost immediately, and some it may take time, but there are always going to be pits and troughs because our lives go up and down all the time, or our experiences do as well. But one client in particular who was feeling frustrated with her situation. Her inner judge was really loud, constantly berating her and telling her she's not doing enough with this, that, or that, or the other. In our sessions, we used some of the reps, also breathing. I interject some of the breathing work that I do as well with my client, and going through a process in terms of coaching using some of the positive intelligence methodologies and tools to support them, to guide them to think more around compassion and compassion for self. So over time, it was very interesting. One of the comments she said was like, I would never talk to people the way I talk to myself. And for her, that was a real light bulb moment. Then it was a starting point for her to think about, why am I doing this? And I should start to change my language in terms of the way that I speak to myself.
Indeed, indeed. That is very powerful. I often have heard people say it's easier for me to be compassionate to others than it is to myself. I think it's harder to be compassionate to others if you can't be compassionate to yourself.
Yeah.
Is my perspective on it. And because we have to learn to be kind to ourselves. In terms of positive examples, what else can you share that the work that you've been doing that's had an impact on people?
Yeah, I've had another leader who was basically promoted, which is amazing. But stepping into that role was quite challenging because there was a lot of an uncertainty around that. And in some cases, when you have a new role and people are maybe your employees are developing that role around you because there are skills that you have, you can bring to the table that they want to utilize, there may be a lot of uncertainty about what you should be doing and are you doing it right. And so, through there again, some breath work, using some of the techniques, and this one was around visualization and visualizing what really is important, what's important to you now, what do you perceive needs to be done right now. And going through that sort of process, we started to see some growth. And of course, there were other situations at play here because in that system, not only is that person operating, but she has to navigate and collaborate with other people. So there were other micro situations that she had to manage as she was going along. But with her kind of, it's almost as seeing yourself there, seeing yourself do it already, and thinking of those situations that may have it happen, may not happen, firefight if you like, and then navigate that situation as best as you can.
Sounds like a great strategy in that
Yeah.
way.
And it worked for her. I've had clients that visualization doesn't work for.
Yeah, I think we're all different. Now, you said a few times breath work. For those of us who don't know breath work, what is it?
So there are different types of breathing processes that you can use. I'm a great lover of cardiac coherence. So that's a simple breathing exercise and it can be quite powerful. For me, it works and I love it. And that kind of helps harmonize our heart rate with our breath. So it's great for calming. And for me, it's really great for calming. So basically, it's about breathing in for a certain count of 5 or 6, and then exhaling for a count of 5 and 6. And you repeat that. I do it over time, over 3, 4, 5 minutes. But some people, I started off with 1 minute, I might add, and it was very difficult to get there at first. But after some time, I managed to develop that into kind of 5 minutes. So that's one system that I use. Recently, when I started to look at more breath work, and there's ones like the box breathing as well, but one very interesting breathing technique that I started using when I am just about to go into a large meeting where I'm maybe presenting something very important or I'm slightly stressed. Before I'm going into that, is physiological sigh. And that's a breathing technique that's science backed. And it's a technique that helps you to instantly reduce stress and reset. And what was great about that is when I did some work for LinkedIn, I put out a campaign and this breathing technique was there. I got some really interesting feedback from clients saying, wow, this really worked for me. I had to go into a presentation and I did that before I went into a presentation and it really worked amazingly. So I was very chuffed and it worked for me. So it's nice to hear that it's actually working for others.
Again, building on that, if someone is listening to this podcast, we hope millions are, what small, tangible, actionable step do you think they could start doing in respect to their own well-being and resilience?
The first thing is to start, and it's just one small thing. What one small thing will work for you? Set a timer. Set a timer for 1 minute and just even sit still and just close your eyes, be still, put your hand on your heart and ask yourself what you need now and sit with that. And what you need now is not what's in your inbox. It's not what other people are telling you. What you need now might be to put your head out the window and just feel the breeze on your face. What you need now may be just to take a big inhale and a big exhale. What you need now may be to get up from your computer and walk away for 5 minutes. It may be making some tea. It may be walking around the garden, doing a lap around the garden. It may be just staring at a plant and enjoying the beauty of nature. Whatever you need now.
And what I hear you saying is none of these things cost, do they? They're
Yes.
really simple exercise, beginning with commitment to ourselves
Yeah.
to start doing that. Marie, this has been a really interesting, actionable podcast. I'm sure I can recommit myself to start breathing for a minute. It doesn't feel as if it's daunting to be being able to do that. It's simple, it's real. And if people wanted to know more about your work, how could they get in touch with you? We will have resources. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So the best way would be to go onto my website, Glow Consultancy London, and you will see book a call with me, have a discovery call, and let's have a chat to see where you're at and where you want to go and how we can get you there.
Good. And do you have any sort of motto that you live by that you could share with people on this podcast?
That's an interesting one. I would say one step at a time.
Absolutely. Simple.
Yeah, one step at a time. The other thing I'd say is go easy on yourself.
Yes, many of us aren't so easy on ourselves. Thank you very much, Marie.
Thank you, Nita. It's been a pleasure.
If you're interested in working with me, connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or www.nitasharma.com. And if you enjoyed the podcast, why not consider subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you have access to your podcast, and leave a review.